just as a way of introducing you to the audience for folks who don't know who you are and what you do, if you could do a 1-minute background on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in the hospital systems. I am a laboratory professional, so licensed clinical laboratory scientist. A lot of my background has been in the operations and regulatory side of just making things run from both the hospital life science space, and we've grown into building a full quality management system that utilizes AI to ensure that some of the mundane tasks are just more efficient in hospital systems and life science organizations. And this is what we do, and this is part of my expertise, and I'm happy to be here and share more today.
It's fantastic. And obviously, we've heard a lot about AI today. AI was what everybody was talking about at JPM this past month or earlier this month. But when you look at what you're doing and how you guys are working in transforming the lab systems, what is it doing specifically to improve things like efficiency and compliance in the lab quality management systems? And what are some of the tangible benefits that people are seeing from your platform?
Yeah, that is a really good question. So right now with quality management data, for anyone who doesn't really understand what that means, it means that behind every test and behind every results that we see, whether we're talking about a hospital system or a life science organization, there is a trail of quality management that happens behind the scenes to ensure that what you're getting is accurate. And at the end of the day, this is a lot of data. So the question is, how can we use AI to really help us move these processes along? How do we minimize the human effort in terms of getting from A to Z from a quality management standpoint? So these are some of the things that we're seeing that we're able to tangibly change at this point with the help of AI. How do we take months and months of audits and months of pulling together data and statistical analysis? How do we condense that into a week of work or days of work? So these are some of the things that we're using AI for to help us push quality management along in a more efficient and more accurate way.
That's incredible. And let's stay on this AI thread for a minute here and double click on that. I mean, everyone knows labs face some of the most regulatory oversight in healthcare. The requirements are absolutely ridiculous. The quality checks, the reviews, the audits are all over the place. And so when you look at what you're doing with AI, how are you using it to help labs, things like basic stuff like just reduce human error, double check some of the stuff that's going on, and then make sure that they're staying ahead of the regulations?
Yeah, so this is really where predictive analytics come into play. So the first part of it is obviously, gathering the data. Once you have the data and you're able to make those connections with AI, how can we take, the complexities of compliance, whether we're talking about FDA or ISO or, whatever those regulations are, how do we use these standardized regulations and use AI to provide us with predictive analytics and to actually prevent errors before they happen? How are we using AI for that? So this is one of the things that we could really capitalize on in terms of taking these cumbersome, whether it's an audit or whether it's just looking at your KPIs or your quality indicators. How can we use AI to bridge that gap and ensure that we're getting to the endpoint quicker? So yeah, that's one thing that we are very much looking forward to in terms of just ensuring AI can help our systems.
It's amazing. And so let's dive into some of the real world examples. Everyone wants to know, how is digital actually moving the needle? And your company is growing really well. Again, the HITLAB scientific group we did a analysis of the platform. It came out thumbs up, A+ ratings in terms of heuristics and really user experience, user design, user interface. And so when you're looking at the real world examples of what your customers are seeing when they're implementing your system, what are some of the lessons that you're learning? What are some of the lessons that they're learning from these implementations?
Yeah, so some of the lessons that we're learning is really how do we take this human factor and how do we optimize it? So a lot of times we find that in our quality management systems, there is quite a bit of repetition. And this is, we may say great repetition, so what? But the fact of the matter is that every time someone has to repeat a redundant process, it's more time spent out of your workforce that takes away from actually doing the science that they're meant to do. It's more cost for your bottom line in terms of being able to optimize your workforce. So being able to have AI pull these processes together is something that is very valuable from multiple standpoints, not just from ensuring that your human resources is actually optimized, but ensuring that you're not overspending for tasks that could be optimized with AI. So that's one of the ways, and this comes with us implementing processes like method validation, which is something that takes months to do. How do we take that month-long, that 3-4 month-long process and condense it into something that's more tangible? Another thing that we're very excited about is how do we optimize and mobilize our workforce using AI? So at the end of the day, we are collecting a lot of data on our workforce, and this is the type of data that only lives in quality management systems. How is someone trained? How are their skills assessed? Now, at this point, can we take this data and can we have AI analyze this data so we understand who's good at what? How can we really place our teams in the right places? How can we mobilize this data so that if someone is basically in one health system, how can we move them to another health system and have AI say, okay, this is what this person is good at. This is how we could really optimize this person's role in another facility. So these are all of the things that we're using AI for in our system.
That's great. And these days, everyone's worried about security, right? We saw what happened last year with Change Healthcare. We saw what happened with a number of health systems, United Healthcare included, just with hacks and things like that, and all kinds of issues with breakdowns and security. AI is all about data. AI is all about, and at the end of the day, data security plays a huge role in how AI is being rolled out, how it's being managed, and how it's able to continuously provide value. And if the security is not there, then at the end of the day, the executives, the physicians, the patients, the lab techs, they're not going to feel comfortable about it. Yeah. What's Proficient Lab doing around making sure that the data and the AI and everything around it is being locked up and is airtight security?
Yeah, I mean, that goes with, I think any system, whether you have AI implemented or whether you don't have AI implemented, it's a matter of really ensuring that you have a robust encryption, that the way data is accessed through multi-factor authentication to ensure that even in the background, as we're using AI, we're continuously validating the model, ensuring that the outputs are meeting the need. But in terms of the actual security and what we're doing, like we're doing, no less than the utmost of what needs to be done to ensure that the individuals who need access to the system are gaining access to the system. And sometimes it may take, an additional authentication or an additional step to ensure that you're, gaining, access to the right people in the right places. But all of this is important to ensure that we don't have these type of breaches. So this is things that we take extremely, we put a very high value on. And it's just part of, creating a system, whether there's AI or not. It's impossible to have your customers, your clients trust you if you're not able to build that layer of security in and that come in. And that's something that we do.
Yeah, that's right. And, just to wrap up, we got about a minute left here. What are some of the innovations that folks that are working in the lab management systems, what are some of the digital innovations and AI innovations that you can tell them that they can look forward to hopefully make their lives easier in the coming years?
I'm sorry, I missed the last thing that you said.
What are some of the innovations that AI is going to bring to lab systems over the next few years?
Yeah, I think some of the things that I think AI is going to bring is that as we're able to connect more of our systems, so say we're able to connect our EHRs to our LISs and to our QMS, having AI able to take our quality management or take our different analytics from one end of the spectrum to another for the different systems that we use in our life science and healthcare system is going to be huge, because it's really going to allow us to move beyond just using AI for patient information or using AI for quality management. Like, how do we bridge those gaps? And I think that's going to be really big. The other thing that I think AI is going to help with is as we're able to mobilize data, like we're doing employee data specifically, like we're doing with the Proficient Lab, really getting those details and understanding where our employees are, good and where they need improvement and how we could really move that data. Really being able to do that gives us a look at what's available beyond a resume. So I think as we get network effect where, we're really evaluating our workforce on what their skills are, and not just what they present in a resume, it's going to be it's really going to have a huge impact on the industry because we will be able to manage our resources better, which is extremely important as we think of workforce shortages and staffing issues and just the burnout that we're seeing on the industry scale.
This is great. Unika, thank you so much for joining us today, and keep up the great work. I mean, just the innovations that you and your team are putting together every month are truly impressive, really amazing. And we're looking forward to seeing great things coming out of the Proficient Labs in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.